Everybody, it is Tuesday evening, which means one thing and one thing only here at the Going for Two Live Network. It is time for another edition of the Fantasy Cheat Sheet. We have our boys ready to introduce them, but I just want to let you guys all know it is a special episode. And why? Because it is the craziest NFL trade deadline that I think we have ever had. So let's just get straight into it because we want to talk these trades for sure. Jordan, my man, how you doing, man?
I'm feeling good, man. Trade deadline day. I'm just ready to talk some football, man.
All right. And last but not least, we got Jamie. Jamie, what are you up to, my dude?
Just hanging out, talking some football, man. I'm excited.
All right. So already we got Gator J in the chat saying it's time. Let's go, fellas. Rock this week 9 edition. Hey, Gator J, it's this first part. Let's talk about these trades. I can't wait. So we will do our normal thing. We'll get into the Monday Night Football reactions and everything else. But let's just start off with the big news. The first trade that we want to talk about, T.J. Hawkinson. Well, the crazy part to me isn't the fact that he got traded. It's the fact that he got traded to an interdivisional rival. So Hawkinson gets traded for 2 picks and a pick swap. First off, Jordan, what's your reaction?
First of all, it came out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting him to get traded anywhere. And then to mention specifically a division rival, like you mentioned, that was a surprise. I think initially, obviously, he gets a bump. I think a better offense. Kirk Cousins gets a bump, another weapon, an upgrade over Irv Smith, big upgrade over Irv Smith. Obviously, the Vikings are going for it all, trying to win on offense. And Irv is out for a while. They put him on IR, so they had to make a move. They didn't want to roll with the tight ends that they had, understandably so. They gave up quite a few picks to get Hawkinson, but obviously, yeah, I mean, I guess, that makes sense. But yeah, I think all around, I don't think it hurts Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, guys like that. I just think it gives Kirk Cousins another weapon that they can use. I think the Vikings are ready to contend, definitely on the offensive side for sure. Their defense can be consistent. I mean, they have a chance to make it out of the NFC. What do you think about Hawkinson in Minnesota, Jamie?
Man, so my first thought was they're giving up a top 10 NFL pick for what, a second and a third?
Yeah.
Oh, come on. But the one thing when I was looking at stats that stuck out was that Irv, he's 8th in red zone targets. So that's definitely going to help Hawkinson for fantasy. But I did notice that Irv was only playing like 50 to 70% of the snaps, but Hawkinson was 70 to 90 over in Detroit. So it's going to be interesting to see how they use him and if it does affect Thielen or Osborne or someone else.
Right.
So before I give my take, let's put this up. The competition for targets worries me. J.J. Thielen and Cook demand way more targets than what he had to deal with in Detroit. Mm-hmm. And actually, that's kind of what I was going to bring up. I think this is more of a lateral move, fantasy-wise, for Hawkinson himself. Because of that, the biggest bump to me, yeah, you got Jefferson, yeah, you got Thielen. But Jordan hit the nail on the head to me. The biggest bump to me in this is Kirk Cousins, because if he doesn't really force stuff a lot, except on primetime. Yeah. So if he tries to, if he does get into a position where he's trying to force something, he might not have to anymore. The other thing that I want to bring up is, who also is a winner in this trade?
Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Thank you, Jordan. Because part of the reason they were saying is part of the people's thoughts was the fact that Hawkinson was out last year is the reason ARSB had such a good season towards the end is because he had all these open targets. Now those targets are gone again. So, I agree with you on that. So Gator J asked, and I'll get to this, Gator. ARSB Swift, I hope it opens him up. So Jamie knows how much I love Swift. I was hoping the Chiefs would have grabbed him instead of CEH. That's a whole nother discussion. What I hope they do now is use him more in the receiving game because they're going to still use Jamal Williams and it drives me nuts because they bring Jamal in at the 5, and then Swift doesn't get the touchdown, and my fantasy team loses. But that's what I hope. I hope that they use Swift more in the passing game. Do either one of you have a quick comment before we go to the next trade, since we have so many today?
I just want to know who's going to be the main tight end over in Detroit. Is it going to be that Brock White fella or James Mitchell? I think is the next guy up.
I think this game is going to be the tryout for both.
Yeah,
Okay.
And they might be used as blockers more, and they may be using the running backs a little bit more in the passing.
It might be DeAndre Swift, Jamie.
Yeah.
Like the one thing I noticed that Brock White, his best comparable player on Player Profiler was Hayden Hurst, which isn't a bad thing.
No, that's not bad.
James Mitchell's best comparable player is Brock White.
Okay, but here's for the last comment before we get into the next trade. It usually takes 2 to 3 years for a tight end. Now you're going to rush 2 rookies into it. I don't think it's going to happen.
Well, I think Brock was last year. He was undrafted.
But I'm just saying, like,
this year for
and he's coming off an ACL injury as well.
Yeah. Yep.
So to speak of another trade and to speak of a guy who is as big as a tight end,
yes,
Chase Claypool, Pittsburgh Steeler, no longer gets traded for a second-round pick to the Bears. Key point, it is the Bears' second-round pick, not the pick that they got from Baltimore, which people thought. So that's a little bit higher pick, so good for Steelers. Jamie, I'm going to start with you. What do you think about this trade?
Oh, man, I think the Steelers robbed the Bears, honestly. Like, they gave a pick that's going to be, later than what they actually drafted Claypool at. I mean, what has he done to get a second round? But still, he's played 80% of snaps the last 3 years, and was suboptimal with all of his target shares and catch rates and everything. Like he wasn't that great except for that first year where he had 9 touchdowns. But since then, what has he done? So, but I think Claypool is exactly what the Bears need in that offense, getting that tall, big-bodied receiver.
So
just
Gator J,
on the outside.
Yeah. So Gator J's asking wheels up Fields ?
Yes, I think it helps.
Wheels up, but Gator, I'm going to get more into this question later in the show. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to dive into it a little bit further. Jordan, what do you think about Claypool going to the Bears overall?
So I think it helps. It definitely helps Justin Fields getting another weapon. It's always good to get as many weapons as you can for a young quarterback or any quarterback for that matter. Claypool is still a good receiver. He's in an offense that is kind of, putrid in the pass game. Yards per attempt is low. Pass attempts are kind of low. It's just not a good offense. So getting him out of the way also clears it a little bit for Deontay Johnson and George Pickens. So, I feel like those guys get a little boost, a couple of targets here and there, Freiermuth as well. So I think both passing games kind of benefit from this trade. Well, some of the weapons, I don't know if Kenny Pickett benefits per se, but George Pickens and Deontay Johnson, Pat Freiermuth, they benefit from the Pittsburgh side. Justin Fields benefits. I don't know about Darnell Mooney. I don't know. I'm interested to see what you guys think about him in this trade, but I think it definitely helps Claypool as well because it kind of clears him. It's just him and Mooney pretty much vying for the targets on the outside. So I think that's good for him as well. I think, they needed to do something. I was surprised. They should have drafted a better receiver for Fields, but they did the next best thing, I guess, is get somebody in a trade.
And by the way, Gator says stop listening to Chase.
Jamie. Oh.
Okay. So I'm not going to bring up the Pittsburgh side because you already did, and you pretty much said what I wanted to say. It was going to be about Pickens. But I will bring up the Mooney part. Who did they have? They got Cole Kmet, and I'm not talking running backs. You got Cole Kmet, who was disappointed this year. You got, and Jamie hears me say this on another show, you got the oldest ever rookie in Geriatric Jones. Okay. You got Brian, a half a can of Pringles, who couldn't even make it on the Chiefs with freaking Mahomes and the weapons we got now. Lack of weapon with Sky Moore. And then you got Mooney. The problem is that's all you got. So Mooney is being double teamed. Mooney is being shouted. Claypool, to me, is wheels up Mooney because you bring in Claypool, who's a bigger receiver. You bring in a guy who can actually take pressure away from Mooney secondary-wise. For God's sakes, Ahmad-Ra St. Brown's older brother is the number 2 receiver on the freaking Bears right now.
True.
He couldn't be the number 3 receiver on your team, Jordan. So who's to say that Claypool is not an upgrade for sure? To me, he's an upgrade, and that's just how that is. So the next trade that I want to talk about is a defensive trade, but also affects the offense. So the Dolphins, let me get the actual details because this was big. Bradley Chubb got sent to Miami for a first-round pick and a certain person's favorite player on this panel. So, Jamie, I'm going to start with you because the player that got traded from Miami to Denver was none other than your boy, and I admit mine too, Chase Edmonds. So my first question to you is, let's not talk about Bradley Chubb for a second. What does this do for Chase Edmonds, and what does Chase Edmonds do to that backfield with Latavius Murray and old man Melvin Gordon, who is probably, in my opinion, might be the odd man out? Me and Jordan are giving you the floor, so take it.
Finally, Chase Edmonds is free from that god-awful usage he was getting in there, Miami. Like, I love Edmonds, man. Like, and I think this is great for him. Like, I still have him sitting on the end of my bench in every single one of my leagues. I have not dropped him just because I was hoping for a Mostert injury to get Edmonds going. Oh man, but like Denver does like to target their running backs, and I love running backs that get targets. So
they're saying Gordon's still the starter, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see because Edmonds is a great pass catcher. He can catch 7-10 passes each game. So I'm gonna love that. Like that puts him right up in like RB2 territory, like flex option with RB2 upside. So I'm glad I didn't drop him. I'm hoping for the best outcome, man, because he's on all my teams. So I'm a little biased.
Yeah, I can see. I understand the optimism and the hope. But I just wonder, like, I mean, anytime we thought we knew what Denver was going to do with the running backs, they kind of tossed the monkey wrench in the plans. Like, I expected Javonte to kind of dominate snaps at the beginning of the year. That didn't happen. Whenever he got hurt, we expected Melvin Gordon to dominate snaps. That didn't happen. So Latavius Murray came out of nowhere. Now he's getting most of the work. So I understand that they gave up something to get Edmonds, and I think that he's going to be used. But I just wonder if they're going to use him kind of like they were using Mike Boone, getting most of the passing downs, but not a lot of the work, especially in the beginning. I would think they would have to kind of ease him in to the offense and stuff like that. So I think it's better than he's going to be used more than what he was being used in Miami. So from that standpoint, I agree with you, Jamie. He's free from that, from the shackles of Mike McDaniel in Miami. But
and do we know his contract? How long his contract's? Yeah, Edmonds.
I'll find out.
I don't know, but
I'll look.
So from that standpoint, it kind of frees them up. But I'm just unsure of how they're going to use the running backs. Denver has been confusing to me all year, and they continue to be even more confusing with this trade.
Yeah, so I'm looking it up too, but
I mean, this tells me that they're just going to let Gordon go next year. They weren't going to sign him anyway. Javonte's.
He has one more year at a $6 million hit. So this year he's a $1.1 million hit. Okay, here's what's going to happen. He's a $1.1 million hit this year. Next year is a $6 million hit, but they can get rid of him with no dead cap after this season.
All right, I still think they're going to keep him next year because Javonte's not going to be fully healthy next year at all. Like maybe half the year, they bring him back slowly. So I can still see Edmonds being viable next year.
I'm
Yeah,
not falling for that next year though. I can't.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing. Jamie, you know how much I loved Chase Edmonds before the season.
Yep.
Me and you were fighting for him in
We
2
fought
leagues.
for him. Yep.
We fought for him in 2 leagues. Okay, here's the thing. That bandwagon is 2 miles that way. And this made it was 1 mile that way this morning when I woke up. This trade made it 2 miles that way. This offense, it's the offense to me. And I think that's what Jordan's point. We thought it was going to be Javonte, and then they had Melvin. Then we thought Melvin when Javonte got hurt, and then we had freaking Latavius. And then Mike Boone until Mike Boone gets hurt. Hackett needs to go.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to happen right now or not. I mean, if he would have lost, honestly, I believe, and I know you're going to kind of get into a situation with your home team, Jamie, but I think it's the same. What you're going to bring up is the same exact thing that happened in Denver to me. I think, even though they got rid of Bradley Chubb in this trade, I think if they would have lost that game against Jacksonville, Jerry Jeudy would be a Green Bay Packer. Possibly, or on another team. The quarterback, the coach would be gone. I think it would be a bigger rehaul than we're seeing, if that makes sense. So to go to the next trade, God, there's so many trades today, and it was amazing. I was at work going, what do I look at next? What do I look at next? The next one, let's just go straight to Buffalo. Nyheim Hines gets traded to Buffalo from Indianapolis for a 5th or 6th round pick. I can't remember which one. And Zach Moss. I know Jordan's going to get into a little bit something about that later, so I'm not going to bring that up. But what is Jordan? What do you think the immediate impact is in Buffalo only?
It's weird. I'm kind of confused by the move for them. I mean, I thought James Cook was starting to come along quite nicely for them. I mean, I guess he's going to be more of a Singletary handcuff in that way, I guess. And they are going to, obviously, if you traded for Hines, they anticipate using him in the passing game a lot. The only thing is, I don't find where Josh Allen passes to the running backs a lot. So I'm not sure. He's in a much better offense, obviously, but I'm not sure exactly what his role is going to be and how many touches they can expect him to get. So, I was kind of confused by it because I thought James Cook could do those things that Nyheim Hines does. But, I mean, hey, I guess they felt like it was cheap enough to get another weapon, so why not?
Jamie, what do you think overall?
Yeah, I mean, we all heard the trade talks about them trying to bring in another running back. That just tells me that they don't have faith in the rookie right now.
Right.
Like they're just going to develop them a little bit more and maybe for the future because Hines ain't going to be there for years. So I think just let Cook play behind Hines, let him learn from Hines and go from there. I think it's a decent move.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. I'm starting to think with the great mind named Gator J.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with John.
I'm starting to think that right there. And here's what I think they're actually doing. I think they're bringing in Hines to see if that is the case. I will say that the experiment of Zach Moss is a total miss. The one thing that I did just bring up, it gives it by team. It doesn't give it by the whole league. So I can't compare it to the league, Jordan. But for what your comment that you just brought up, they have targeted so far the running backs 56 times. Okay. Here's the thing. Devin Singletary has 31 targets for the season. Reggie Gilliam has 9 targets for the season. Zach Moss has 8, and James Cook has 8. To me, that says that if they don't want to, I don't know if they want to use Devin Singletary as much as they are in the passing game, and that's why they're bringing in Hines, who they can do that more. I do agree that Cook might, be a sub for Singletary more, but here's the thing. Just like the Miami trade, everyone knows that you got to score points in the AFC. You got to, and you got to defend the quarterback. That's why they got Chubb. They're trying to score more points in Buffalo. Give any more weapons that you can possibly give Josh Allen, who doesn't need more weapons, by the way. That's speaking from a Chiefs fan. But giving that to Hines is perfect for Hines. Who is this? John says Hines trade makes 0 sense. You've now got 3 backs that are built like third down backs in Buffalo. I disagree with that. I think that Singletary is showing that he can play. Mm-hmm. And then Gator J says Singletary is just pushing all these running backs out the door. The coaches don't want him, but they can't not play him. That's okay. Thank you, Gator J. You said it perfectly. Singletary, I thought at the beginning of the year was going to be the odd man out, but he's proving that he's definitely not the odd man out. Okay. So let's go to the next trade before we're already 20 minutes into the show. So these next couple, let's just quick hitters.
All right.
Back to the Dolphins. Jamie, real quick. 49ers sent veteran Jeff Wilson to the Dolphins for a draft pick. I think it was a 5th rounder. He is a free agent after the end of the season. What do you think?
Pretty much just a handcuff to Mostert, just for insurance. Like he'll be more valuable if Mostert gets hurt, but right now it's just I wouldn't call him anything but a handcuff.
All right.
100% agree.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all agree. Miles Gaskin isn't the answer for a handcuff, and you get a guy that's already in the system of the Niners.
I guess at this point, when the 49ers first made the trade for McCaffrey, I thought Wilson was droppable. But I guess now, being Mostert's handcuff, who's more likely, I would assume, to possibly get hurt at a point in time, he has some value now.
Okay, so here is real quick. I want to be longer on this one, but with time, Calvin Ridley gets traded to the Jacksonville Jaguars. It can be a 5th round, 6th round, or all the way up to the 2nd round, depending on a bunch of when he gets reinstated, if he makes the team, if he makes the All Pro Bowl. Like, there's all these things that can make it from a 6th round to a 2nd round. Jordan, real quick, big news, no news, in between.
I think it's in between because I guess it all depends on if Ridley can be reinstated. I mean, if he is, I think that's huge for Trevor Lawrence, definitely come next year. Yeah, I definitely think that could be a big move next year. You think about Ridley, Christian Kirk, ATN, that's some weapons to have. That would be great. If he's reinstated next year, that's just huge news. But if he doesn't, which I mean, I don't see why he wouldn't be. I mean, it doesn't seem like he's doing anything crazy right now, or anything like that. So if he just stays on the straight and narrow, he'll be reinstated. That'll be big news for the Jacksonville offense going into next year.
Ridley can get rich now betting against his own team. That's a whole. I mean, what's funny is 2 of the games that he bet on were Jaguars games. That's what's funny. Jamie, what do you think really quick?
Yeah, real quick. I think the Jags need a player like him to complement Kirk. Kirk's playing the slot. I think he's more of a split end, right? So that'll be Marvin Jones.
Yep.
And I mean, he's old, so he'll just take over for Marvin Jones.
Right.
And it'll take some coverage off of Kirk too, so he won't be seeing the number 1 coverage.
All right, so we're 20 minutes in the show, and it's time for our regular scheduled programming. Monday Night Football. I got to give credit where credit is due, especially since we have somebody on the panel tonight. The Cleveland Brownies, the Cleveland Browns, pulled off the upset. I'm giving you credit, Jamie. 32-13 over the Cincinnati
they did
Bengals.
look good for once.
They did look good. Me and Jamie
once.
were actually watching the game together. They did look good. But Jordan, you know what I want to know. What is your biggest takeaway of the game?
These Browns, Jamie, I mean, you have reason to be excited, man, moving forward.
For 1 week. Or two weeks.
I mean
no, bring up your real point, Jordan, and then he'll be excited.
Because Deshaun Watson is coming back, however we may feel about him. individually, and all the nonsense he's been accused of, things he's possibly done. He's going to be playing again. And after he knocks the rust off, because I don't think he's going to come back firing on all cylinders or anything like that. But I think a rusty Deshaun Watson is better than Jacoby Brissett. So this Browns offense has a lot of potential, man. And the defense did its thing last night as well. And if they can continue to play at that level, coupled with Deshaun Watson coming on offense, man, the Browns are legit. You got the running backs. You got Amari Cooper showed up in a home game. Hey,
except he threw an interception.
True, but there's reason to be optimistic that this team could be legit, not just the rest of this season, but moving forward. I think they can be. Now I see faith.
All right, yeah. You got more faith than me though, because I've been watching them for 30 years.
You know them better than I do. So just from where I'm standing, when you look at just kind of the basic parts of what they have, I think adding Deshaun Watson to this mix may not be good right away, like I mentioned, because obviously he hasn't played in a long time. He looked terrible in the preseason, but once he gets up to speed, man, I think you guys can be legit.
All right, I hope so, because in the past it looked like we had some things going for us, and is disappointed year after year.
Well,
right, before you give yours, I will say this. This is what I want to say, and I'm not Gator J. I am not putting your comment up yet for a specific, very specific reason. Okay, I will put your comment up. I am actually in between you two. I think there is optimism with the Browns, but I'm afraid that the Browns are going to brown. And that's what I'm afraid of. So I'm kind of like in the between. I think one more year, and that's where I think that we're going to have a changing of the guard, maybe, where they're going to be that number 2 team possibly, or fighting for that number 2 team in their division. I still think this year they're 3 in the division, but I think it's getting closer. So, Jamie, we were talking trades.
Yep.
There was a trade that we all thought was going to happen.
Yep.
And that is a certain running back on the Browns. Why is that not happening?
So I was expecting the Browns to trade Hunt, but it looks like he's just going to ride out the rest of his contract, playing behind Chubb. Like, for fantasy purposes, I was really hoping Hunt would go to a better team to be a starting running back, because I love my fantasy football. But he's not getting any younger, so he'll be 28 next year on his new contract. So his best days are already behind him. So I was hoping for one last push, because I got him in a few of my teams. But the Browns really think they have a chance at the playoffs. Like, for real. Like, let's be realistic with that. Like, they lost to the Bears. They lost to the Falcons. They lost to the Jets. They lost to the Patriots. All bad teams. Like, looking forward.
I'm holding you accountable, okay, Jamie?
Okay.
Last night you said they were going to be the number 7 seed.
I was drunk last night, dude.
You said they were going to be the 7
and I was hyped because we scored like 21 points.
Okay, I'll give you credit. Go.
All right, so like looking forward, like the Browns play the Dolphins, the Bills, the Bucks, the Ravens, the Bengals with Chase fully healthy. Like, I don't see them beating them, but they could beat the Texans, they could beat the Saints, they could beat the Commanders. So what, that gives them a 6-win record, maybe 7-win at the end of the year. Like, that's not good enough to get into the playoffs. And even with Deshaun Watson coming back, like, how long is it going to take them to get comfortable in that offense, knock the rust off? So they should have just took what they could for him. They wanted a 4th. They should have just took the 5th round, let him walk.
Yeah. So, Jordan, what do you think about that real quick?
Yeah, I was surprised to see him still there as well. I mean, for the reasons that Jamie mentioned, and for also, I mean, either him or Dearness Johnson, I thought would have gotten traded at the very least. Because if Hunt was gone, I think Dearness could have filled in quite admirably in the Hunt role. I think he showed he's a good player as well. So I felt like they had a surplus of running backs. I thought they could have cashed in on one of them to get something. And I mean, like, instead of letting them walk. But like you said, Jamie, even if they don't, make the playoff, I think they kind of, when Watson got suspended for those 11 games, I think they kind of resorted to the fact that they probably wouldn't make the playoffs, and it was just about building towards next season, which I think is what they're going to try to do when Watson comes back. I know they're going to want to win games, obviously, but I think it's going to be more about getting him comfortable looking ahead to next year. And I think not trading Hunt was a missed opportunity. I think that they might end up regretting, or trading Dearness Johnson, either one of those guys. I think they're going to regret doing that. But I think they're still focused on building for next season.
All right, so I'm sick of this. I'm sick of this Browns talk. Okay,
Me too.
okay. Let's talk about the Bengals, and I am gonna be blunt. People have said this is my favorite word last year during the show when I was on Friday nights, so I'm gonna just bring up Gator Jay's comment because he's saying it for me. Cincinnati's Bengals offensive line is dog doo-doo. They're hot garbage. They're dumpster fire. And what's funny is, I have it in my notes that they're hot garbage and dumpster fire, and Gator J even says it. Don't give the Browns too much credit. The Cincinnati O-line looked like a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
So here's the thing. You have a quarterback in Joe Burrow who leads the league in passing yards. You also have a quarterback in Joe Burrow who I believe leads the league in sacks. Not sacking people, getting sacked. That's not a good recipe for success. You have Jamar Chase is out. You have Higgins. You have Boyd. You can't throw the ball if you're always running or the pocket's always collapsing. And even then, further than that, I'm not saying they shouldn't have taken Jamar Chase. Okay? That's not what I'm saying. But when they did take Jamar Chase, they already had Higgins. They already had Tyler Boyd. And who was sitting there at number 4? Penei Sewell.
Yes.
You don't take Penei Sewell. You go get a Lyle Collins from the Cowboys who's older. You go have a couple other guys who are a little bit older and not doing great in the second half of their career. In the last couple of years, they still haven't gone out in the first couple rounds and addressed that need of offensive line like they should have. And here's the other thing besides Joe Burrow who it's hurting. It's hurting Joe Mixon because Joe Mixon only had, I think, 30 yards rushing in that game. And I understand that the Browns got ahead and they had to play from behind, and I get that. But Joe Mixon hasn't had a great season when it comes to yardage or touchdowns. Like I mentioned one week, and I saw the stat again, he has the most carries within the 5-yard line and 1 or 2 touchdowns, I think. What's that tell you? That tells you that, yeah, he's not finding the hole sometimes, but it's also telling you that they're not getting the push up front. I'm going to say it one more time. This offensive line is hot garbage.
Dumpster fire.
Oh, it's more beyond dumpster fire. So there are times where our fantasy football teams have bad luck, are hot garbage, are dumpster fires for the week, or in the middle. So, Jordan, what's your starting sit, buddy?
So, surprisingly for me, it was a pretty good week overall when it comes to start sit. Normally, I have a few boneheaded mistakes, but I got lucky this week. Except for one matchup where I played Brian Robinson. So first of all, just playing him in general didn't matter who was the other option. He scored 2 points. That's just terrible in itself. And instead of Latavius Murray, obviously neither one of them are great options. I didn't want to have to play either one of them. Nope. But I had Austin Eckler on a bye, so I had to make a choice out of the two. Chose Brian Robinson, and Latavius Murray outscored him by 10. I was able to barely hold on for the win. If Tyler Boyd would have caught that last pass that got knocked down on 4th down, I think I would have probably lost. So that move almost came back to bite me.
All right, Jamie, what do you got?
So in one of my leagues, I started DPJ and Kirk in my flex. I also had Myers and Gibson on the bench because I thought it was going to be a Robinson game.
Oh,
And
So
Mixon
did I.
Myers had a tough matchup. I know Kirk did too, but I just figured the targets. I lost by 2 points, 160 to 162. And on that team, I also started Bateman, and I could have started Duvernay if I wanted. Also on the team, I had AJ Brown, Tony Pollard, and Tua, all big games, and still lost by 2 points. So that hurt. Yep.
Okay. So usually I have a matchup that's close. Most of my matchups I either won or I wasn't close. The one that I'm going to bring up Gator J's first. He says lost by 3.36 thanks to Burrow, would have been 8-0 in my Devy league. That's tough. So I'm in second place in a dynasty league. I was going against the 9th place at the time. He's in 8th now. So you can guess what happened if he was in 9th and in 8th. He beat me. But here's the problem. I lost by 50 to a guy in 9th place. But the reason I wanted to bring this up, there's a reason I wanted to bring this up. It's not because I made a bad play. You know those weeks where it's not your week? You're going to lose no matter what?
Yep.
All right. So I thought it was that way even before I looked at the score last night. Kirk Cousins. And this is a pretty basic scoring league. So when Kirk Cousins scores 22 points, he scored 22 points. Nick Chubb, Tony Pollard, AJ Brown. I'm not listing his whole lineup. I'm just listing the big boys. Kirk Cousins, Nick Chubb, Tony Pollard, AJ Brown, Tyler Lockett, Jalen Waddle, Nick Folk. Nick Folk had 20 points.
Wow.
So to say the least, there was nothing I can do. And this is the league that I won last year. I have CMC. I have Debo. I got Matthew Stafford. I got Cooper Kupp. I got Travis Kelce, who happened to be on bye. I got smoked. Jamie, this is the league that I made that Debo trade in.
Oh.
So,
all right.
This is the guy that gave me Debo. He had AJB and Waddle. I was trying to get AJB or Waddle. He wouldn't give me AJB or Waddle, but he gave me Debo. Luckily, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Actually, I do know what to say. F them kickers.
Yep.
Yeah. Unless you're the person who has the kicker that scores 20.
But I mean, let's be real here. How often does that really happen? And it just happens that it happened to be against me because the freaking Jets suck.
True.
I mean, besides Sauce Gardner and whoever else, you got Elijah Moore who wants out and doesn't want out and all this.
And if he saw if him and Zach Wilson was on the street together, it might be a fight. It just seems like Elijah Moore doesn't like.
Well,
Zach
how
Wilson.
many memes have you seen about did he look at his mom the wrong way? I've seen all that too.
Yeah.
All right, so we have done our Monday Night Football. We talked about our trades. We talked about our start and sits. Jordan, tell me what's on your mind.
Man,
what's your random of the week?
So I guess it's I just been going through this, talking to a couple people. At this point, I'm just trying not to overreact to certain people that we invested draft capital in that are coming off of a few bad games. A couple of examples, like Cortland Sutton. I'm not panicking on Cortland Sutton yet.
Now you know why Moore wants that.
Yeah, I'm not panicking on Cortland Sutton yet. I know Leonard Fournette's usage has kind of dipped a little bit. It's been splitting a little bit more of Rashad White. I'm not panicking on him. Obviously, people panicked on DJ Moore, and somehow PJ Walker saved this season. So I guess, it's just don't spike drop guys that you invested in heavily. Don't give up too soon. Just there are a couple of guys that I just see can still make a difference if we just kind of be a little patient with some of these guys. Like I said, Cortland Sutton has had a couple of bad games, but I'm not giving up on him. even Keenan Allen. I mean, he's been hurt all year, but I feel like now he's gonna be getting healthy. No Mike Williams, he's gonna be all right. Just sticking with some of the guys that you invested in. There was a reason you invested in them. Just hold on. Now, obviously, some people aren't going to be saved. I don't think Brandon Cooks is going to be saved now that he didn't get traded. I think his value is kind of in the tank a little bit, but just hold on. Like Kyle saying, Jeff had a horror story about dropping DJ Moore. Just don't do that. If you can hold on to him, hold on.
Yeah, I saw on Facebook someone was ranting saying they're going to drop Cortland Sutton. And I was like, do not do that. Like,
I've seen a couple people do it. I saw someone drop Cortland Sutton today to try to get Josh Palmer.
Oh my God. Like, I like Palmer, but you don't drop Sutton. Like, he's had like 5 games with double-digit fantasy points. Yeah. And he's getting those targets. He's playing like 90% of the snaps. Like, you don't drop that.
You're right. You have to kind of be patient. Like, I know even somebody like Deontay Johnson has been kind of frustrating. But, I mean, especially now with Claypool gone, I mean, he's going to possibly have more opportunities. We just got to be patient with some of these guys.
Yep.
All right, Jamie, I know you want to talk. I know most of our stuff on the show is based off redraft, but I want to hear what your dynasty brain is thinking.
Yeah, because I was going through all my dynasty teams. I got 15 of them. So I just wanted to say, check your dynasty teams. Look at your record. Like, if you're in the playoff running with like a 5-3 record, 4-4 record, also look at your points for. And if it's lower than normal, then your team's not as good as you think it is. So you might want to like look at the roster, kind of restructure it, see if you can do some trades to make that final playoff push for the end of the year, but don't blow it up. Like, don't do crappy trades. Make sure you get value. Don't lose a lot. And then also, like, if you're at the bottom of the league and with the bad roster, like, go ahead and tank. Like, tanking is a strategy, right? Do you guys agree?
Yes, but Jamie.
Yes.
You know where I'm going with this.
All right.
There's a wrong way and a right way to do that. Explain that, because you had an experience yesterday that you were giving me about the wrong way.
Yeah. So, like, I'm in a league. I'm 2-6 now. And the guy is also 2-6, but he has like 500 points for, and I have like 800 something points for. So, he's not setting his full lineups. He's starting guys on buys, guys that are on IR. So I'm trying to lose, and I had Hunt, and I was down by half a point. So I just benched Hunt and took the loss. And then my plan is I play him on week 10. So I'm going to set my full lineup so he thinks nothing of it. And then last minute, I'm just going to bench everyone so that he has that better record than me with 3 wins, and I got 2. That's the number 1 pick right there. It's strategy. It's strategy. Like, I would not do this if he wasn't doing it. I wouldn't do it. But just the fact that he's benching all his players on purpose, and I don't agree with that. So two could play at that game, man. You get what you get.
You just better hope he's not listening, man. Because
yeah, if he listening, you in trouble.
Yeah, because it's gonna be a race at 11:59 or whatever time zone you guys are. 1 minute before the game start, who's gonna take their players out the back?
All right, so here's mine. I am going to go in a little in depth. Both of you know I like to use numbers every once in a while with giving some stats about defenses and all that. So I'm going to give props to my boy Scott Munderdifflin. Munderdifflin is his handle on Twitter. He does charts with the adjusted fantasy points for defenses. But on this week, because of the sample size, he has for the whole season and the last 3 games. And the reason that's important is defenses aren't always what they are at the beginning of the season. as they are in the middle of the season. Different schemes, different players, growing pains and all that. I think we can all agree on that. So here are the biggest changes. And I'm going to give a couple of the biggest changes in good and in bad so we know who to target when we're playing. If you have starting sits, like if Jordan has a couple starting sits that he's really agonizing over, these are those ones that you look at, not just because, of course, we're going to start CMC. We're going to start Travis Kelce. But if it's between Robert Tunyon and Greg Dulcich next week, and one of them's going against the worst against tight ends, or a team that's not doing good in tight ends the last couple of weeks, you might go that way. So a team, here's an example. For the season, Seattle is 21st against quarterbacks. So if I told you that with the naked eye, you would think play your quarterbacks against Seattle. In the last 3 games, they're third. Okay. I know they went up against Daniel Jones as it wasn't too, great, but that just shows you overall that they're good on that front. Baltimore, they started off the season slow on defense. They gave up a whole bunch of points to Miami. They gave up and come back to Miami, and they gave up points a week before that too. They were 23. Now they're 13th in the last 3 weeks. But here's one on the flip side. And this is why you should start Derek Carr.
Oh.
Jacksonville was 22 for the whole season. They're dead last the last 3 games. Okay? So they're 32nd the last 3 games. At running back, real quick, I can't believe this one. I don't know if it's just because they're going against great running backs. I know they went against CMC, one of them. The Rams, they were 9th for the season against running backs. They're 28th the last 3 games. Another one, Tampa Bay. They're 4th for the whole season, 21st. Remember, they haven't had all their DBs. As long as their DBs and are out and injured, play your running backs, your wide receivers, play everyone against Tampa's defense. And the last one I want to point out, and I think a certain wide receiver is going to have a bounce back game because he didn't have a game last time because the whole offense sucked. Jacksonville was 15th against wide receivers for the season. They're 31st in the last 3 games. Give me Devontae Adams. Give me Derek Carr. In all formats. I know you're playing them no matter what, but I think they'll have a bounce back game. What do you guys think? Am I talking out of my – am I making sense?
No, it makes complete sense, man. Like, I want to look more into this.
Because defenses are – I don't think people look at that matchup stuff enough when it comes to the start-sit stuff. Obviously, you're going to play Devontae. I get that. But like DFS, Jamie, I know you don't – I know you play a little bit, but we know like Gerson. Gerson plays DFS hardcore. That's stuff that Gerson has to pay attention to because he's not going to pay up for a guy if he's going against a great defense if he can pay down for a guy that's going against a horrible defense.
Yeah.
All right, so that was like that. Yeah, so now we're to our cheat of the week, which is usually our waiver wire / transactions.
Can we get into this question from Gator?
Oh, yeah, let me pull it up. Which one? Oh, yeah, I got it.
Non-contender.
Yeah, I got it. I have a non-contender. Do I trade CMC for Pickett, Wandell, Akers, and a 23 first? Jamie, you go first.
Okay, I like this trade. CMC, I looked at his value, and I would actually trade a first, straight up for him right now. Plus, you're getting Pickett. Is it super flex? I mean, even if it's not, I like that first. Wandale, Akers, those are just throw-ins, so I like it. I'm pretty sure CMC's value was an early second plus an early third was his value. So go for the first.
I think his value is a first and a second right now. If you go, yeah.
Maybe you're right. Maybe I looked at that wrong.
I think you have to get it. For me, I would have to get a first for him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, he is getting that first.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
So,
what I'm saying is, you're saying his value is a second. I'm saying I would never even consider trading CMC away. If someone came to me with just a second, I would say, no, I'm sorry. You know how we always say you don't. I mean, to me, a second for CMC is preposterous, but that's just me. Here's what I mean. Look what Kyle says. Can you stash Pickett and Robinson on the taxi squad so that you don't have to drop any players? That's a key too. If you can put them on your taxi squad now and then use that as your advantage. And yes, it is a super flex.
Yeah. Okay. So it is a first and a second, pretty much.
Yeah. That's what I.
So definitely, like Pickett was a first round last year, and yeah, you get Robinson. I like it.
All right. Yeah. So yeah, I mean Akers, and if Akers does bounce back, then you have that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you just go ahead and trade Akers.
Gator says he can't stash, but he doesn't need a drop, so I would do it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Jordan, who are you picking up, my man?
This could be a mistake. So but I think
I don't think it's a mistake if you didn't change it.
Oh no, I didn't change it.
It's not a mistake.
I think Deion Jackson is somebody that needs to be picked up. Obviously with Nyheim Hines being traded, that role is up for grabs. And then at the very least, he's Jonathan Taylor's handcuff. And then with that, he's going to provide standalone value by taking over the Nyheim Hines role. We saw what he can do when Taylor was hurt. I mean, he caught a bunch of passes. He didn't run the ball very well, but I just think that's a Colts offensive line situation. So if they intend to use him like they did Nyheim Hines, I think he could be valuable in that role. And then he also kind of doubles as Taylor's handcuff. I think when you could get somebody on the waiver wire at this point in the season who can provide standalone value as well as being a high value handcuff, I think you got to scoop him up.
Yeah, I definitely like that.
Agree. Yeah, I agree. Go ahead, Jimmy.
On that Thursday night game where Taylor was out and Hines started, but he got hurt right away.
Yeah,
like I was telling people to pick up Deion Jackson just by his profile. Like, dude's fast. Like, he's quick and he's got good size. So I liked him. Like, I think I actually played him that week.
Yeah, I played him that week when he started by himself. I played him and he scored like 8.
Yep. So good call.
Right. Jamie?
Mine's Josh Palmer. He's only 36% owned on Sleeper. Like, after missing week 7 due to the concussion and having a week to rest with the bye week, he's a must-add right now off waivers. Like, his teammate Austin Eckler even said, "I'm picking up Josh Palmer. If he's out there, I'm getting him." And that's him saying it. And I think the last time he did say that about someone, they went out and scored 20-some points the next week. So I picked him up last week.
Yep.
Before he was on anyone's radar, just if I had to spot for him. But like in the last game he played, Palmer had 12 targets. He put up double-digit fantasy points in half of his games played. Now Mike Williams is going to be out for an extended period of time. Keenan Allen hasn't been healthy for most of the season. I mean, he's a must-add.
I agree 100%. And like you, I stashed him a couple of places last week, so I didn't have to put any fab money on him or anything this week when people are going to catch up to it.
Yep.
I think, like you mentioned, all those factors with the wide receivers being down, and even when one of those guys was healthy, he still provided value as well. Going into the season, we thought he would be good, just even as the third receiver, but now he gets up to number 2 in the offense with Justin Herbert as the quarterback. Definitely is a must-add.
Yep.
All right, so I am going bold on this. Not bold. I am just going a little off-brand on this one. I'm going a little different than I thought I was, Jamie, before the show.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if I told you here's this problem. It's week 6 or week 9, which means what? There's 6 teams on bye. Okay. It's tough, and you're still gonna have buys, you're still gonna have injuries. What is the toughest position? Tight end, because you can have, if you don't have one of the top 2 or 3, you probably don't have a tight end, period. So what if I told you there was a guy that is still available in a decent amount of leagues? He has here's his targets: 1 week he had 4, and 1 week he had 3, and 1 week he had 1. I understand that. But the rest of the season, 8 targets, 10 targets, 6, 7, 6 at tight end. Would you take that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Are we talking about
Yep.
Evan Ingram?
That's what I was thinking.
We are talking about Evan Ingram.
Okay,
And they are
all right.
going against the Las Vegas Raiders, who suck against the tight end. If he's still available in your league and you need a tight end, like I'm in a league that freaking my tight ends was Swerve Irvin, and he's no longer even there.
Yeah.
Go ahead and go get yourself some Evan Ingram. Another one that I want to bring up, and I'm saying this, pick him up now. You might not need to use him this week because he's going against a decent defense. But with his new weapon, and it was something that we brought up earlier, with his new weapon, I'm not saying you're going to use him every week, but because I'm talking more if you're a streaming kind of guy for quarterback or bye weeks or you're injury riddled like a team I have that had Matt Ryan and Baker Mayfield on as my super flex. I know you're not going to be able to get this guy as your super flex, but I'm just saying when you have problems and you got to fill the pieces. If you're in a single quarterback league that actually doesn't keep 2 quarterbacks, like some people do, if Justin Fields is out there, once he gets a rapport with Claypool and it's going to open up that offense, he's another streamer that I would add.
So going off Evan Ingram, man, I'm looking now, and he's number 7 tight end in targets.
Mm-hmm.
He plays the slot. He's the number 3 tight end playing slot snaps. Route runs is 5th tight end.
Are you looking at Profiler or 33?
Yeah, Profiler. Deep targets, he's number 2. Air yards, he's number 6. Receptions, 8. Receiving yards, he's 8th. Yards after the catch, 8th. Like, there's a lot of top 10. Unrealized air yards, 6. Yeah. Definitely, man. And it's funny because my girl, she actually played Evan Ingram the past 2 weeks over guys that we would not have started him over, like Dulich, Njoku 1 week, and it worked out for her.
In sleeper, he's not even owned in 50% of sleeper leagues.
Wow.
He's on. I mean, it's close. It's 48, but in ESPN, it's like 32. Mm-hmm. Like it's not even. To me, for him to be only owned in 48% of leagues in sleeper for redraft, with what he's starting to do, doesn't make sense to me. Especially with how weak tight end, or how much of a difference there is in the tight end. Because like both of you guys know, that 2 points that he gets on one more play can be the difference of a win or a loss if you're playing him over Tunyon or him over Logan Thomas, if Logan Thomas is playing, or whoever the case may be.
Yeah, like I thought he was going to be good on the Jags, but I didn't think he was going to be this good because I knew he was a former first-round pick. Like, he's only 28, still got a few more years to ball out, so I like him even for the future.
He's been more consistent than some of the he's been better than Kyle Pitts for the most part.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Pitts had a good game this past Sunday, but consistency-wise, he's been better than him. Obviously, been better than Dalton Schultz. So, good call.
I like it.
All right. So that seems like it's a good spot to stop for the show tonight. We will definitely be here next week, like always. Let's go around the horn for some sign-outs. Jamie, sign out.
You can find me at Twitter at Jamie Perogue, also on Facebook at the Fantasy Football Discussion Group. I'm always here on Going for Two in the chats, and you can find me Sunday morning, Start Sit Show, and then also over there at the Rum Boys Fantasy Network.
You guys can find me on Twitter at jarsenal89. Obviously on here every Tuesday night with you guys. Also, article every week on goingfor2.com. Cut them or keep them. Keeping that going. So just check it out.
All right. So before I give mine, thanks, Kyle.
Thank
Great episode,
you,
guys. Yep. And John says the same thing. All right. I'm going to keep mine short and sweet. Everyone, you know where to find me. Drop the mic FF. Find me on the collab article for the waiver wire. Find me doing some other stuff on Going for Two. You can also find me over at the Rum Boys Fantasy Network. For Jamie, for Jordan, for me. Peace out and have a